My name is Ivo Havinga. I'm from United Nations Statistics Division in New York. And as you indicated, why is the GVCs important to us as a statistical community? Well, the reason basically is that we are responsible for informing more broadly around the economy, like GDP, more broadly about well-being, about society, more broadly about sustainability in the environmental sort of context. And we have our systems, our normative standards, as we call them, that basically inform us around the economy and the environment and the society. And we have done recent updates on most of these standards. For instance, the system of national accounts since the economic and financial crisis. We really worked in incorporating sort of the new dimension of cross-border vulnerabilities and so on. And where we concentrated on basically was on the financial side. Okay. Also in understanding the new units that were created. Then in the next sort of step, moving up to Rio 2012, that was the Rio meeting, then the whole issue of sustainability and the link to the environment became very important. So also there we extended, we developed a system of environmental economic accounts. So we were able to much better understand the cross-border issues around sustainability and natural flows. Then we reached a point that in 2011, somebody said, and that was Lamy, there are issues around fragmentations and the way we look at trade statistics. Probably is not the way we have to look at it anymore in terms of getting valuable sort of information for our trade negotiations. We need other kind of statistics. And then the whole issue arose around the TIVA database. There was a whole new discussion around understanding these relationships in the global supply and use table out of national supply and use tables. That basically brought us to the notion how well does the systems as we know them really inform about these sort of production chain issues and the vulnerabilities, but also the creation of jobs, income, and the use of natural resources. The upshot of the whole thing is that it really has taken off. With Lamy, being the with World Trade Organization mentioning it, with IT Jetro coming out in 2011 with the value chain analysis of East Asia, picked up by OECD G20. In saying, look, we need TIVA database. We have to understand this much better. So you get then the release of data around these issues, very well positioned in the OECD, also supported by the G20 in doing that kind of analysis. And the statistical world picked that up. We had various sort of conferences in 2011. Actually, almost coincidentally, we had that meeting in Geneva. Around international trade and globalization, organized by UNSD, my organization, and Eurostat. Others were there, WTO, OECD, the world was there that mattered in trade. That accumulated in an institution that is very important. We have a structural sort of a pyramid in our statistical system. We have the national system, the National Statistical Organization, and at the pinnacle is called the Statistical Commission. Mm-hmm. And the Commission recognized that there was a need to look at that. So we created what we call a mechanism, which is called the Friend of the Chair. And the Friend of the Chair was on international trade and globalization. In 2015, next year, we will report on that outcome. And basically where we are sitting now is that there is a need to revisit our international standards. So we're going to look at that in new sort of aggregates like TIVA and other sort of information, what we call trade and enterprise characteristics information. We're going to look at units. The units that we use and that we report on maybe have to be revisited. Also the classifications have to be revisited. So if you want to understand these relationships, there is much more understanding about understanding not only the interrelationship cross-border, but also the governance issue. Is becoming important in understanding. So it is important to take all these different sort of aspects in addition into account that reflect on these units, like economic control, by way of example. Now, that will come to a new sort of positioning of a work program, and we have indicated the kind of work programs that we would like to develop around global supply and use tables, national supply and use tables, new classifications, a new handbook. That will really help. It is also important to understand that this is not only about global information and global aggregates, it's also very much about microdata. So we're really trying to develop much more closer that integration with the micro statistics to understand the enterprise within the country much better, and its functioning into the global value chain. So that is a new aspect. And then, of course, the geography is important.
Okay.
So in the geography, with the link to the environment, we really want to incorporate it also to the geospatial information, so that we have much more better, broader sort of systems that we're able to develop, the understanding of also the relationship between the global value chain and the economy and society, but also to the environment. Okay. So that is also a new aspect that we take on.
Yeah, you talk about these next steps, maybe 5-10 years from now. Where will trade statistics be, or where do you hope trade statistics will be, and what they will be able to capture? What's sort of a best case scenario there in your mind, or the most, what are you hopeful that they will be able to reflect that they aren't now?
I think the most important thing that we have to work on is that new conceptual environment in which we're going to explain these global value chains. I think much more has to be done in bringing that theoretical underpinning and the link to policy and that translation into statistics. So I think the next years will definitely be on that, what I would call normative conceptual side that we have to develop. So that is one aspect. There's a real need to look at national supply and use tables. We do that in a way that it is very SNA based, very much domestic. That's the focus, not so much on cross-border. Now we have to look at these input, physical and monetary input-output relationship in the global value chain. So they might be even specific by industry, right, in terms of the value chain industry. So there might be a need to ask with the countries to provide particular sort of supply and use tables. So that's also a discussion that we need to have. Confidentiality issues become an issue, because with all these supply and use tables, when we release them, they should be released without providing confidential information on particular industries. But I think around these sort of issues, there will be a lot of work done. The link to micro and trade data is an important one. So I think there's a whole new sort of environment of statistics that we have to bring on stream. OECD, the European Commission, the G20, they will be the leaders, but we will have to bring along in the global value chain also very much those that are in the middle and low income categories, because there is very much that trade and income and jobs and natural environment has to be understood and understood also with relationship to the global sort of environment, not only for those that are more advanced in these chains. So that is where I think there will be a lot of aspiration, and I think progressively over the next 5 to 10 years we hope to bring more data on stream.
Okay. This summit here, what do you hope to take from it? How can it help?
It helps in various sort of ways. I think the critical importance is now to understand each other's sort of major trust in providing that, from my perspective, that new data. Now, for new data, we have to understand the policy. We have to understand the theory and practice much better, so that's with the academic community. And we have to really try to understand how we translate that into statistics. I think there's also a role of the corporate sector, because there's a broader sort of role than only policy, academia, and statistics. I think the corporate sector has a role to play there also. When you bring that together, it's about a global partnership. So here in this area, I think it is about developing that global network and partnership, and I think these sort of retreats are extremely valuable to bring key players together, that represent institutions, academic institutions, in a way that we can move this forward together, because we can only do that together.